Okay, so today is chapter 22 and chapter 23. The first one, chapter 22, toxicological emergencies. Trying to turn on my headphone.
All right, there you guys are. They're in my ear. I moved way too far down. So, as I was saying with toxicological, it's trying to understand what you're going to see in a patient that's suffering from something. There's a lot of different chemicals. There's a lot of different substances out there, and trying to learn what each one of those can do to the body is going to be very, very difficult. No one can, well, unless you have a photographic memory and just read a book a day or something. But there's a lot of different things that you're going to see on the body. And really a lot of what we do with toxicological emergencies is supportive care. As EMTs, there's not a lot of antidotes that we can give a patient. There's Narcan, and that's pretty easy. That is available over the counter for patients. But short of that, there's really nothing that we could do for our patients. So we're gonna kind of go over and we'll walk through what we're going to see. So first off, a poison. What's a poison?
Animal's venom.
I'm sorry?
I mean, poison.
What is a poison?
It could be liquid, gas, or any type of solid that affects your health or can cause death.
There you go. It's any type of substance that can cause damage to the body, that can impair health or cause death. Yeah. Now, as far as toxicology, that's the study of poisons and toxins and antidotes and everything else. So anything having to do with poison. Now, we know what a poison is, any substance. What's a toxin?
A drug or a substance.
Yeah, it's a drug or a substance, but it's basically it's poisonous to humans and can have pretty bad effects as a result. Now, certain toxins might not be poisonous to a person. It depends if they're used properly. Like, for example, botulism. That is a pretty nasty bacteria. Yet people inject it into their skin. Why? Because they're vain and they're trying to get rid of wrinkles. Although Botox can also be used for migraines now. But there are some toxins that, used correctly, will not have an effect. Now, an overdose is where that person's been exposed by consuming, ingesting, exposing to a large amount of a particular toxin or drug. So really, an overdose is they had too much or overwhelmed the body. Now, remember when we did the human body and we talked about the skin? Give me the functions of the skin.
Largest organ in the body, and it protects you. And then
The temperature.
you,
Okay, so it protects us from the environment. It regulates body temperature. What else? Synthesizes vitamin D. So our skin is there to protect us and to help us out. Now, when bad things happen, is really there's four things that occur or that can happen. Our skin's going to protect us from the environment, right? So in order for something to go in through our skin, something had to have happened. And it's either we injected it or we absorbed it. The other thing is bypassing the skin and eating it or drinking it. I'm sorry, eating it or breathing it in. So we call that the routes of exposure. There's four of them. Eat it, drink it, sniff it, or shoot it up. No, wait. Eat it, rub it on our skin. Eat it, drink it, shoot it up, or rub it on our skin. In other words, injection, inhalation, ingestion, and absorption. Inhalation is we breathe it in. Injection, we shoot it up, a needle, or it gets stuck. We get stung by a bee. We get bitten by a snake. That's injection. Inhalation, we breathe it in. Injection, inject into our bodies. Ingestion is we eat it. And then absorption is it's on our skin, but it gets absorbed through our skin and gets into our body. So, okay. So microorganisms, radiation, and chemical. Oh. Is that? Let's see. Okay. So, like I said, the majority of the care that we do for our patients is going to be supportive. In other words, if they're having difficulty breathing, we'll give them oxygen. If they're feeling weak, lay them down and put them in a position of comfort so they don't topple over. It's basically managing the ABCs, keeping the airway open, helping them breathe, make sure they have a pulse, and that's about it. So for this kind of patient, do you think you want to assess them every 5 or 15 minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Every how often? What time period would you put it at?
Every 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every 5 minutes. You don't know what the chemical's going to do. So it's better just to observe them, reassess every 5 minutes. Now, while we're assessing, while we're doing vitals and everything, there might be an opportunity to do something. It depends on the chemical. Now, really what we're going to do is when we get at scene, so we're going back to patient assessment. So we show up at scene, we're going to get clues, right? What are some of the things you want to be looking for? I'm walking in, I got a call for a person feeling ill, let's say. So I show up, what's going to concern me?
Any explosions of smoke?
Okay, there might be smoke present, and I'm not a firefighter anymore, so do I deal with smoke?
No.
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 Like, I'm talking about like trucks with place cards and all that.
All right, so other types of smoke, the transportation placards.
You could see like cleaning products, illegal drugs, insecticides, maybe food on the floor from like food poisoning or something.
Okay. What else?
Medications. Well, the bottles.
Okay, you want to look
Those
at pill
trucks,
bottles?
it's leaking something or gas or something like that.
Okay.
For plants?
So tell me more. Tell me more. Don't. Okay. So it kind of expanded. So okay, chemicals, gas, animals, pill bottles, food, gasoline. What else? How about people coming out at you with snot on their face? And there's numerous people. Remember, the call was for a single person not feeling well. And now all of a sudden you show up and you have multiple people coming at you also not feeling well or vomiting or snot on their nose or coughing up a lot. Would that lead you to say, uh-oh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we want to establish our scene safety. And we've achieved that. Usually it's just wait over there, call maybe fire department. That's recognizing that you need additional resources. Okay. Now, once they're decontaminated, or you determine that it's not something that's going to harm you. You're outside, and this is an actual call that happened at a daycare at a church in Coronado, California, where the Navy SEALs train. Was that there was a messed up furnace, and it was putting back, I think, carbon monoxide. And a lot of little kids got sick. So once you get them out into the open and start breathing fresh air, they're going to get better. And again, because you're outside, you don't have to worry about the fumes, that carbon monoxide in that enclosed area. Okay. So to kind of get to antidotes real quick, antidotes are used to help reverse the effects of a chemical. So for example, Narcan is used to reverse the effects of opiates. In that, have we talked about this yet? What Narcan does? I thought we did.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
So it competes at those receptor sites. So it's actually reversing the effects of Narcan, up to and including respiratory distress or failure. I showed you the video, didn't I?
Yeah, about a
Bringing
movie.
out the dead. Yeah. Yeah. So antidotes, they're not available for every single poison or toxin out there. Just a small number. They have Mucomyst for Tylenol overdose. They have flumazenil for benzo overdose. There's sodium bicarb that can be used for tricyclic overdose. Benadryl for dystonic reactions. Somebody's having a specific type of reaction to a medication or a group of medications. May be able to give charcoal to try and absorb that poison. It's not necessarily an antidote, but it's used to help reverse the effects of actually, I shouldn't say reverse the effects. It's used to neutralize the effects of poisons, because you ingest the charcoal, and the charcoal binds to the chemicals, and it doesn't let it get absorbed into the intestine, into the GI tract, and then as the charcoal starts being processed through the GI tract, that chemical has binded to the charcoal, so it's not going anywhere until eventually it comes out in the toilet and you're pooping black. So some of those antidotes I was telling you about are carried by ALS units. Now the Mucomyst, the flumazenil maybe, but I don't know of too many systems that do. But the Mucomyst is at the hospital. Another antidote, sort of, and we'll talk about snakes, is antivenom. That's only available at the hospital, and it's a pretty expensive proposition there to get antivenom. Okay. All right. Questions so far?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. So now, we show up at scene. Again, you guys were talking about looking at tanker trailers, looking at the UN placards, looking at clues, clouds. And I think it was Rosie mentioned the medication bottles. Was that you, Rosie? Or was that somebody else?
No, it wasn't me.
Okay, whoever said it, that was good. Yeah, you want to look at that to see, especially if your patient is altered or unresponsive. Look for pill bottles. Usually it's a suicide attempt, and we'll talk about that with behavioral. But yeah, definitely take a look at it. But let's talk about, actually, before I get there. So what other things can you be looking for once you go inside the house?
Surroundings.
Okay.
Their mental status?
Okay. I'm not talking about the person itself. I'm talking about clues.
Open containers.
Needles.
plants,
Okay, needles, plants.
Um,
just anything around the patient.
How about illegal drugs? How about cleaning
Yeah.
supplies, household chemicals, insecticides?
Petroleum.
I didn't go on. I didn't go on this call. The previous shift did, and they told me about the call. They went on call for a guy that I forget what the dispatch was for, but he'd been drinking out of this cup, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And so they asked, I think it was the son, what that cup was or what happened, and he shows them, and what happened was he had poured some organophosphate, which is also a pesticide, or organophosphates are found in pesticides. And he put it in that cup, and he put some orange juice to kind of give it a little bit of flavor and stuff. And what he did was he was attempting suicide. He succeeded. It messed up his body so much. But it was that attempted suicide with chemicals. Another thing, and this is more of inhaled, is people do what they call a chemical suicide, in which they can mix household chemicals or other types of chemicals. But it's interesting what we have in our homes, and they basically put it in a bucket. They mix it in a bucket, and then it creates a gas chamber, and the individual inhales it and dies as a result. Most of the time, individuals will put a sign on the door or on the window of the door that says, "Caution, poisonous gas." Some have used hydrochloric acid, and some have used I don't know what other gases, but yeah, they've combined gases in an enclosed area and inhaled it. So it kind of gives that sucking on your pipe a different meaning, because before people would put garden hoses into the tailpipe and bring it into the car and inhale that carbon monoxide and die as a result. A lot of times they maybe suffered some brain damage from the anoxia, the lack of oxygen in the blood. All right, so there's all these chemicals, all these substances, everything. So we're going to talk about ingested poisons. Now, what does ingested mean?
It was swallowed.
eating,
You
swallow.
eat it.
Yeah, it goes in through your mouth and it goes into your GI tract. You swallow it, drinking, you still swallow, all that stuff. So it's introduced to the GI tract. So it goes into your mouth. So tell me what signs you would see for someone that ingested a poison. And it could be anything. So what might you see on a patient that ingested a poison? So close your eyes, visualize. Okay, vomiting, good.
Sweating.
Sweating, okay.
Foam, like spuma from their mouth.
Do what, I'm sorry?
Like, what's it called? Like foam, spuma? When it's coming out of their
Okay,
mouth.
foaming of the mouth.
Yeah, foaming.
Burning around the mouth.
Oh, okay, burns around the mouth.
Irritated skin.
What kind of skin?
Like, you could see it right away on the skin.
Flushed.
What part of the skin?
I'm not sure.
Redness.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure.
So just think about it. We ingested it.
Diarrhea.
Okay, vomit and diarrhea. But I want to go back to the skin. The skin, remember, is the largest organ of the body. So you're talking about a lot of skin. You're talking about in between the toes? Are you talking on my butt?
Like around the area where it was exposed.
Yeah.
So be specific.
The mouth.
Let's say he like injected something
All right.
into the mouth or something.
No. We're not
Look.
talking about injection. We're not talking about injection. We're talking about ingestion. I
So
put it to my
Oh.
mouth.
swelling of the tongue, burns on the mouth, inside the
Okay,
mouth.
hold on. We're talking about what he said. He said, what did you say? Burns on the skin, right?
Yeah.
Or discoloration, or what was it that you had said?
Burns on the skin. Like
Yeah, the
reddish
skin.
marks and all that.
Okay. Ow. Okay. So I wanted more specific. So burns around the lips. Where else?
They could have a distended abdomen.
No. I want to stick with burns to the skin.
All right.
Could they have blisters
Okay, blistering. Perfect. Where?
on the affected area?
The tongue?
It burns or stained around the mouth. Okay. So burns around the lips, in the mouth, in the cheeks, on the tongue. Okay. I want you guys to be specific. I want you to think through it. Okay. Take that bottle, take that poison, put it to your mouth. Here. I'm going to drink a cup of my Starbucks. And use your imagination. Okay. Here it goes. So what are you seeing? Where are the injuries going to be?
Your lips. Inside the mouth.
Lips,
My lips, my tongue, my cheeks, the back of my throat, my esophagus, my stomach. All right?
Right.
That's what I want you guys to be processing. Okay? You guys are worldwide. I don't want you worldwide. I want you to zero in on El Paso, Texas. Or in other words, don't think about the whole body. Right now, just start with you're putting it to your mouth. What are you going to see?
Swelling of the mucous membranes in the mouth.
Yeah, we talked about burning, blistering to the cheeks, to the tongue, to the lips, mouth, gums. Like I said, burning down the esophagus, burning into the stomach. Now, people have said nausea, vomiting, yes. Diarrhea, yes. Skin rash, kind of, sort of. Okay, eventually we'll get to ultramental status.
Respiratory distress.
What was that?
Respiratory distress.
Why? Maybe, but why? We're talking about ingestion. I can't stress this enough. Visualize you drinking, eating it. Visualize that. Can you guys visualize that? More people, please speak up. Let me know that you're visualizing it or say stuff. Visualize it, putting it into your mouth. The respiratory distress would maybe come from you're puking too much and your abdominal muscles hurt, so your chest would hurt. But as far as ingesting something, that's not a typical sign and symptom that we're going to see.
some stomach pain.
Yeah, abdominal pain. What else? Death,
Breath or body.
abdominal cramping. You guys are not visualizing it, and this is going to be the problem when you guys take tests. So again, abdominal pain, abdominal cramping, hematemesis, hemoptysis, maybe. Yeah, because it's coming up the esophagus. Hematemesis, melena, which is bloody stool, rectal burning. What else? We talked about that. Once it gets into the skin, we could have tachycardia, tachypnea. Well, yeah, because it's affecting something. So the patient could be breathing fast. They could be breathing slow. The heart rate can go down, especially if they ingest some toxins. You could have changes in the pulse, changes in electrical conduction of the body, respiratory depression. Don't you ingest alcohol?
Yes.
Yeah, and so what is alcohol to the body?
It's poisonous to the body.
Consumed in large quantities over a period of time, yeah, it's gonna destroy the body. But I'm talking about if I start having shots of Jack Daniels, which I'm very tempted to do. Actually, I see my little bottle of tequila. Maybe I'll just grab that. And I start consuming alcohol, what can happen to me? Actually, yeah.
Depressed motor function.
Okay. Huh? Did somebody say death? Alcohol is a depressant. It depresses the central nervous system. And as such, it affects breathing. It affects cognitive skill, motor function. But that's just alcohol. Too much alcohol can and will kill you. In other words, it depresses your central nervous system. It depresses your respiratory drive. You guys know why you pee a lot when you start drinking?
No.
Trying to get rid of the alcohol in your body because it's too much.
Nope.
Why?
Because remember, alcohol is a depressant. And there's a hormone that's released by your body called ADH, antidiuretic hormone. It is that hormone that prevents your body from killing you, because without it, you would just be peeing and peeing and peeing and peeing, and you would dehydrate yourself. So this hormone, antidiuretic hormone, is released by the brain, circulates, and it prevents your bladder muscles from opening up and just letting go of the contents. When you start drinking, what alcohol does, like I said, it depresses your brain, your central nervous system, and it blocks the release of ADH. So there's now nothing really controlling your bladder. And you begin to urinate. That's why you start urinating when you start drinking, because of the alcohol inhibiting the release of ADH. And then part of the hangover, do you know what's causing it other than dehydration?
No.
The buildup of formaldehyde in your body. Those are two things I learned in paramedic school. Some of the worthless stuff. Maybe that's why I don't drink anymore. I don't know. So again, but that I gave you for alcohol, that's specific to alcohol. Tablets, like heart medications, those are specific to that. But in general terms, what are you going to see when someone ingests a poison? Like I said, the burns, the blistering, maybe swelling of the airway, burns to the esophagus, upset stomach, abdominal cramping, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, bloody diarrhea, coughing up blood, throwing up blood.
What about seizures?
That could be caused by the particular poison. So those are kind of generalized as to what you can get. I'm just talking about what are some of the things that you're going to see when you ingest something, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If you ingest it, what might you see? Now, here's another story and what I saw. And I might have told you about this one before. So I had a call for a 4-year-old possible overdose. So we get there, and she's in mom's arms. She's mad dogging me, just like all women do. She was mad dogging me. And so I go up to assess her, and she's just looking at me, which in and of itself was weird because most kids, when they see me, they don't mad dog me. They run for their lives. They start crying. And so for her, just clinging on to mom, and she never buried her head into mom or anything. She just kept looking at me. So I assessed her. She appeared to be fine. I asked what happened. And the mom says that the little girl was outside by herself playing. And then the mom comes out and noticed that she had this can of plumber's glue. You guys familiar with plumber's glue? It comes in metal cans about this big. You give the cap, you move the cap, it has a wire, and then at the end of it has like a cotton ball. You put it in there, you put it on like PVC pipe or anything to glue it, and it's a bluish color. And that's what the little girl had. She had that discoloration to her lips, to her teeth, and to her tongue because it dyed blue. What we think, and mom said she called 911, said just call, or not 911, which she did, but she called poison control and asked what to do. And they said, oh, just keep an eye on her, call 911. So we get there, and she's not having any outward signs of anything going on. What we think happened was she tried it, it got to her tongue, she didn't like it, she spit it out. Again, there was nothing wrong. The ambulance got there, I turned care over to them. They decided to AMA her, but she was told if anything happens, call us back. We never got called back. So I'm assuming, which I hate to use that word, but I'm assuming that she was okay afterwards. But the moral of the story is you see other signs there, the discoloration to the lips, to the teeth, or to the tongue, for whatever reason. Okay? So I'm going to skip over, I know a lot of you look at your book. I'm going to kind of skip over the primary assessment, secondary assessment, because for the most part, it's the same for all of them. Like, what time did this happen? Or actually, in the primary assessment, you can look for clues. Is it a possible suicide? You check the ABCs. You put them on pulse ox. Is it more or less than 94%? You give them oxygen if it's less. Maintain ABCs. Ensure adequate ventilations. Clear the airway. Suction if need be. Check for responsiveness. You know, that's pretty standard for everything. As far as the secondary, again, the questions are pretty much the same. What time this happened? What was the chemical? How much of it? Because really, when we're talking about toxins, when we're talking about poisons, what you have to remember is that the effects on the body are going to be dependent on 3 things: the person, the drug, and the amount. So it's hard to say how it's going to affect one individual to another. So Valeria is exposed to a chemical, a certain amount, and it's pretty bad for her. She has a bad reaction to it. Now, Kevin, on the other hand, gets exposed to the same amount. For him, he might not have any effects, or if he does, it's going to be very mild. So a person's composition can dictate as to the effect of that particular chemical or substance. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No, somebody said something, so I was still talking, so they quieted down. So you guys got to break out of your slump, your shyness. All right. Emergency care reassessment is also going to be the same. Now, we talked about antidotes, and I started talking about charcoal. Charcoal is not carried so much anymore. It's starting to kind of lose its place in EMS, but there are places that still use it. And it is one of the medications that you can use on a patient. Now, the thing about charcoal is, first off, remember we're talking in pharmacology, how it's a suspension. Charcoal is mixed, it's a fluid along with the charcoal, which is in a powder form, and they put it together. Now, charcoal will tend to settle to the bottom once the container's not moving. So what we have to do before we administer it is we have to shake it up, because again, the charcoal's at the bottom. So we shake it up. We get the tip off. There are some that actually come with a flavored syrup, so to speak. It's a small little pellet, but we put it in there, it gives it a better flavor because it tastes horrible. And when patients start to drink it, they're like, oh, hell no. No, this tastes terrible. No, they have to drink all of it. Now, the usual dose is 1 gram per kilogram. And these bottles come in 50 grams or sometimes 25. So you give them 2. They have to ingest all of it if they weigh more than 50 kilograms or more than 100 pounds. Okay. Usually 110, but 100 kilograms is a good rule of thumb. All right. What else about? Oh, so now just like glucose with charcoal, they have to be able to hold it in their hand because they have to be able to protect their airway. If they're unresponsive, we're not going to give them charcoal. They have to be responsive. They have to be able to hold it in their hand. What else? What are some of the names of charcoal activated? It's actually, we call it activated charcoal. What are some of the brand names of activated charcoal?
Superchar,
Instachar,
Okay.
liquid char.
Actidose.
Okay. Yep. So those are some of the common names. What are the contraindications of activated charcoal?
Blackening. Oh, contradiction.
Alkaline. Okay.
Overdose on
Any type of alkalis or acids. Also, along with the acids, is caustic substances. So if they've ingested liquid Drano, nope, it's a caustic substance. In other words, think about acids. How do they eat up metal? Well, that's kind of what it's doing to your inside too. So we don't give activated charcoal to caustic substances, acids, alkalis. The other one is heavy metals. So somebody's overdosing on iron, our supplements, then we don't use it. What else? Okay. So questions on ingested.
No, sir.
Okay. So participate. Turn on fire. Wait. right, somebody had mentioned cramps, which is good. All right, skin rash, pressure, strain in the mouth, pain in the mouth and throat, cramps, unusual. Oh yeah, unusual breath or body odors, and depending on the substance, dilated or constricted pupils. All right. All right. So here's your Sharpie. Here I go. You guys watching? What did I do?
Sniffing
You inhaled.
Sharpie.
Okay, inhaled. So now it's inhaled poison. So what are you going to see as a result of that?
Signs of hypoxia.
Okay, maybe hypoxia, but right now I want to know.
Difficulty breathing.
Okay.
Dizziness.
Okay.
Some coughing.
Okay, coughing.
Mhm. Maybe burns to like your nasal hairs and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, good. Cinch nasal hairs.
Sit in your throat.
What about your throat?
A soot. Soot in your throat.
That's going to be harder to see.
The
So where else
pupils,
do you have soot?
your eyes might be red or something.
I'm sorry?
Pupils, your eyes.
Okay, but again, I
No.
want you guys to visualize inhaling a chemical or inhaling something. What are you going to see? So I've heard singed nasal hair. I've heard coughing. I've heard hypoxia, difficulty breathing. It would be the soot around the nose. What else?
Okay.
Going unconscious.
Guys, okay. Luis, help me out. Help me explain what I'm trying to get across.
He wants us to visualize like what we would see first if we were to inhale things. Like don't think outside the box because that's what we're doing right now. We're thinking about other symptoms, but he wants us to see like the first simple signs that we would see, like maybe like mucus in the nose,
Wheezing.
burning and yeah, wheezing would be a good one. Maybe burn nostrils from the chemicals.
Oral pharyngeal burns.
Okay.
Cyanosis.
Although, unless it's direct flame impingement, in other words, the flame comes right to your face, You're probably not going to have burns on the nose.
Maybe around the nose itself.
You might see stuff around the nose. You guys familiar with like the puffers?
Are those the ones that like put chemicals in a bag and just like
Spray paint.
inhale it?
Yep. They'll put in a paper bag or something. They'll put it there, and they put it up to their mouth. So you'll see the paint around right here.
Oh, okay.
How about hoarseness to the throat?
Yeah.
Cyanosis.
Okay. So now we start expanding a little bit more, but yeah. So again, think about it. I'm bringing it in. So if I'm puffing, I'll have the discoloration around the mouth and nose. Thin nasal hair, soot on the nose, irritation to the nose, maybe a runny nose. As it goes back, swollen the airway, again, hoarseness to the mouth, and as it's going down the trachea, burning in the chest, into the lungs, fluid buildup. So maybe pulmonary edema, wheezing, diminished lung sounds, and then we start creating hypoxia. We start creating headaches. We start creating ultramental status. So now we start getting into kind of specific stuff. What can those things cause? Hallucinations, dilated or constricted pupils, altered. The vital signs are going to be affected. Respiratory rate, pulse. Again, there might be conduction issues.
Headache, dizziness.
So let me tell you another story. There was a young female firefighter. She was about 24 years old, and they were at a wildland fire. She was part of what they call a helipad crew, which basically it's a hand crew that is based off a helicopter. The helicopter takes off, drops them off somewhere, and they start cutting line to help try to stop the spread of the fire. So they're creating a line downhill and everything. And this fire just all of a sudden got a burst of wind, and it kicked up. And then it started building and going up the hill. Well, that run up the hill was very fast. They see it, the crew sees it, they turn around, they start running back up to the hill. Well, those superheated gases came up so quick that as soon as she inhaled, her next step was down to the ground. She collapsed and she died. Why did that occur?
Because she inhaled large amounts
Of
the CO2 or
No.
carbon monoxide.
Nope.
It collapsed the airway.
That didn't necessarily collapse it in that, at least the way that I'm thinking of it, but you're right. But why did it shut her down? So as you see me here vaping, all right, what's the temperature of the vape or of the smoke?
You're saying like it melted her from the inside because it's
Didn't
those
melt her.
chemicals?
Didn't melt her. No, it didn't melt. Not in that sense. I'm inhaling my vape, the smoke from my vape. Where's that going to go?
Your lungs.
Into my lungs, right? And it has to go down my respiratory tract, right? My
Right.
oropharynx, down my larynx, down the trachea, or past the epiglottis, down the trachea, to the bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli, right?
Right.
Well, how hot was that gas? Come on, you firefighters.
That what
Way
was your
hotter.
What was that?
what was your question?
How is that gas?
Toxic.
Oh, no, it wasn't toxic.
Way hotter than your vape.
Way hotter by several hundred degrees. 4, 5, 6, 700 degrees. Okay. She inhaled superheated gases. What did those superheated gases do to her airway?
Collapse.
Not collapse. You're kind of right, but it's not. When I hear collapse, I think about it going just collapsing on itself. And it didn't collapse. It did get closed off, but it didn't. Again, not how I'm thinking about it.
You got swollen.
Yeah, it shut down because it got swollen. What traumatized tissue does is it swells. So do you think inhaling superheated gases traumatized her airway?
Oh yeah, for
Right
sure.
away.
Big time.
Yeah, and in turn, it swelled up, closing off. Just like with allergic reactions, right? With that laryngeal edema, closing off the airway. Well, you really have that there too, with a burn. Haven't you ever burned yourself and you had some swelling there afterwards?
Yeah.
And so think about what's going to be happening to that person that inhaled that gas. I mean, that's an extreme example. What was that?
Oh, never mind. I was gonna say even when you're in Mother Chan, it's hot.
Well,
Burns up.
hot is a complete different, but because of the effects on the brain and on the body. But it's not superheated gases that you're inhaling. Granted, it is smoke. But now think about, and I hope none of you are smoking pot. Think about, for you smokers, what did you do when you first started smoking? When you had that first cigarette?
You cough a lot.
Okay, you coughed. Why did you cough?
Because your
Because your
body's not
airway's
used to
not
that.
used to the toxin.
It's not because of the toxin. Someone said inhaled chemical or toxic fumes. And it is that, but it's not why you're coughing. It's because the particles that are getting inhaled, they irritate the lung. The lungs are not used to that. And there's little cilia, little finger-like projections that capture those particles, and then you start moving it up the airway tract to a point where they start to cough to get rid of that. But now after repeated use, the body kind of says, oh, fuck that. So that's why you cough, or that's why you coughed when you first smoked, because it was your body's defense mechanism to get rid of those foreign particles. So coughing is another thing that you'll get. All right, so some of the commonly inhaled poisons, paints, freon, gas propellants, glue, nitrous oxide, which is used for pain. But where else can you find nitrous oxide? either A, I got good people in here, or like angels, or devils that just don't want to say anything.
Isn't that stuff from the balloons?
No, that's helium.
Oh,
Whipped cream.
Whipped cream?
what?
No way.
Like
Hell,
from cakes?
why you call me names?
Damn.
Yeah, nitrous oxide is found in whipped cream, so people will buy those cans and do stuff with it. I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to cause any issues. Have you guys even been looking at the videos on YouTube? The other classes
The
are
ones that you're
jealous because
posting
I've
up?
uploaded. Yeah. The other classes are jealous
Yeah.
because I've so many of your guys' videos. Like, you guys have by far the most videos up than the others. Like the advanced only has like three videos up. The night class might have 2.
Oh, we do have it.
Mm. So on this one, you definitely want to do a respiratory assessment. You want to get a pulse ox. As far as other signs and symptoms, like I said, now you've started to talk about respiratory distress signs and symptoms. I mentioned pulmonary edema, wheezes. What's about it on that one? Any questions on inhaled poisons?
No.
Whenever you would inhale something compared to like ingesting it, would you see like the signs and symptoms a little bit faster than you would as compared to ingestion? Or would
Yeah.
it be about the same?
No, you'll see it faster. Yeah, because ingestion takes at least 20 minutes. Now, you want to talk about even faster? Let's shoot it up.
Injection?
Injection.
Yeah.
So now, with what we've done inside the box, what are you going to see when someone injects something? Or
Irritation.
someone or something? Huh?
Irritation of the skin.
Irritation around that area?
Okay, irritation around the area.
Maybe they keep scratching at that area.
Okay, itching,
Pain at the site.
pain, redness,
Swelling at the site?
Abnormal
swelling.
skin. Vitals.
Okay, now we're starting to get too far down the line. Wait. Yeah.
Maybe like fluid oozing out of it.
Okay. Nothing else?
Hmm. Altered mental status?
Okay, so now we're starting to get past the point of the injection site.
Yeah.
All right. So the chemicals can start causing. Are you noticing a repeat in some of the signs and symptoms that we see on our patients?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just kind of changes like the intake or the area in the body.
Yeah, it all depends on the route of entry.
Yeah.
So remember what you're going to see based on the route of entry, and then again, depending on the chemical, and that's what I told you guys. The effects from the body are going to be dependent on the person, the chemical, and the amount. So right now with the chemical, yeah, we might see, we might get a feeling of euphoria, heroin, or we can see decreased respiratory drive. We can see maybe hallucinations. We might see what else? Well, we might have bleeding on the site. What about an anaphylactic reaction?
Yeah, that too.
Yes.
So again, the signs and symptoms that we're going to see are going to be dependent on the substance, on the drug, on the chemical, I should say. It might not be a drug. It's some sort of chemical or poison. But you're going to have the basics of how does that substance get inside the body, and what are you going to see as that substance goes in and into the body to be processed. So because it's injected, and it could be intramuscular, it could be superficial and subcutaneous, or it might be even directly in the vein. So again, it depends on the drug and really how it was introduced to the body. But what is the drug? What's the amount of that drug? Let's say the person did get stung by a bee. How do you treat a bee sting? Anaphylaxis or not? How do you treat a bee sting? If you guys don't know, just somebody say, I don't know.
Well, I know that my grandma, when she just tierra mojada.
Okay.
Remove the stinger and wash the area.
How do you remove the stinger?
Pinching the skin.
I'm sorry? What was I getting? What the skin?
Pinching the skin. The pus comes out of all the
No.
toxins.
Just pull it fast and then treat the affected area.
The way that you remove the stinger is by scraping it away. Do not pinch it, lift it straight out. Do not get some tweezers to pull it up. Because with bee stings, usually what happens is when the stinger comes out, the poison sac comes out with it. And if you pinch it, you could squeeze more poison into the person. So you scrape it away, get a smooth edge like a credit card, debit card, or something, hard, smooth edge, and just put it on the skin and just wipe it away. Okay? And then, yeah, you want to cleanse the area. Not necessarily wash it, but cleanse it. What do you do for snake bite?
Try to squeeze it out, or like no.
Don't you want to keep the area that was bitten below the heart?
Why? You're right. Why?
Because it could spread the venom through the bloodstream. or it slows down the process of it.
Mhm. Yep. What we want to do is we want to apply a constricting band, not a tourniquet, but a constricting band to reduce the movement of that venom. We want to keep the injured area below the level of the heart, because when you go above, then that can help speed it up. Where the two fangs are, you might see some redness around the area. So take a pen or a Sharpie and draw a circle around the redness. We call it the erythema, the redness. Just like if you have a positive TB test, you have redness around it. So that way we can see how fast it's spreading. The other thing is you want to remove any constrictive jewelry. And that's about it. Let's say I got bit by a rattlesnake in my butt. So Brandon, are you going to come up and suck out the venom from my butt?
No.
Why not? Somebody said we remove it, the venom. I got bit in my butt. Clean, I just showered. You still wouldn't do it? Not for your favorite EMT instructor?
I will let you
No
try it
takers
for
there.
sure.
It's like you'll call 911 for me, but you are 911. So yeah, that's the treatment. Don't suck it out. Don't squeeze it out. Just put a constricting band if possible and keep it below the level of the heart and get them to the hospital. Take them to the appropriate hospital.
What do you mean by level of heart?
Here's the heart. So anything above that, it's above the level of the heart. Here down is at or below the level of the heart.
Oh, I see. Oh, I just wanted to make sure.
So if I got bit in the hand, up like this is above the level of the heart. Bringing it down is below the level of the heart. So let's talk about absorption now. What might you see as a result of a poison being absorbed into the body?
Redness.
Irritation.
Irritation of the skin.
Irritation, redness,
Itchiness as well.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Itchiness as well.
Okay,
A rash.
a rash,
Blistering.
blistering, okay.
Oozing of the blisters.
A little swollen.
Okay, somebody had, I think, mentioned the first one. Talked about blisters, pain to the
Yeah.
area. Yeah. Now, again, dependent on the chemical or on the poison, you could have hallucinations. You could have tachycardia, tachypnea, bradycardia, bradyapnea. You could have decreased respiratory. Oh, that's bradyapnea. What else? Absorbed headaches. You could have ultramental status. Now there's others. You can have liquids. You could have powders. So if a person's been exposed to a powder or even to a liquid, actually, let's talk about a liquid first. So Believe it or not, gasoline can be toxic and can be absorbed into your skin. It will cause dryness. Also, is another thing. How would you take care of a chemical on the skin? Let me rephrase that. How would you take
Rinsing
care of
it
a
out.
liquid exposure? Huh?
Rinsing it away from the body.
Keep it away from the body and rinse it off. Rinse it off for how long?
20
So
minutes.
you see fit.
Usually about 20 minutes. Now you have a powder, like lime or lye. Then what are you going to do?
Brush it off.
Brush off as much as you can, and then you do what?
You rinse.
How? And it's not rinse.
Flush it.
Yeah, you flush it off. How?
With water.
For?
20 minutes.
There you go. Okay. So, medical care really, again, with any of these, a lot of times it's supportive care. There are a couple different things. Like I said, anything on the skin, we need to flush it out with 20 minutes worth of water just to make sure it neutralizes it. The reason we try to not to use water right away with lye and lime is that it's caustic. It activates with water. So they still have a lot of powder on them. If you put water on it, what's going to happen?
It's going to react.
It'll be absorbed faster or spread out.
Nope. We just said it. What happened?
Irritates the skin more.
It's not an irritant. What does water do to lye and lime? It activates it, right? And how does it activate it? It creates an acid, and then it's going to burn up the skin, eat it away, just like an acid. Okay. And so do we want to be using water on lye or lime?
No.
No.
That's why we need to clean off much of it and then start rinsing it off. Otherwise, you're going to start burning the skin. Okay. All right. You know, it's funny that all the years I've been eating, I've never once no, I take that back. I've never had food poisoning, but I think I did one time. I vomited and vomited and vomited. Oh, shit. Where I get a lot of food poisoning is at work when people are calling in or even to class. Oh, I can't make it. I got food poisoning. I went to get Mexican yesterday and I got food poisoning. Or I had Chinese. I had
Some Chicos.
whatever it is. I didn't get food poisoning from Chicos, but I don't like Chicos. I was told, oh, the best place ever. And then I go there. I'm like, see Chico's Tacos. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get a couple carne asada tacos, right? It's like, what are the tacos? Not that kind of tacos.
Yeah, just some
I don't,
flautas
I don't like
ahogadas.
Chicos either. A lot of people say it's good, but nah, Chicos is not good.
Mhm.
There's a place called Fast Lane, like down by the lower valley. Has the exact same thing, and I think it tastes much better and a lot cheaper too. They actually have like actual tacos, like you were saying, some hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff like that.
Mejor va a Juárez y comete unos tacos de veras.
Yeah, for sure.
Big difference.
All right, so we were talking about what I'm trying to do here. All right, so we're talking about food poisoning. So, what was the route of entry with food poisoning?
Ingestion.
Ingestion. Okay. Now, with food poisoning, the most common type of cause for food poisoning is seafood. And part of that and part of food poisoning in general is because we ingested some weird bacteria or toxin. For example, salmonella with undercooked chicken, bacteria that can be found on the surfaces. So we ingested, again, maybe that food is a little old, like old Chinese food. You let it sit out and it gets bacteria and then you're done for. Same thing with chicken. So you ate that. And now it's causing what? Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, gas buildup, abdominal cramping, farting a lot. For some, again, depending on the toxin, you could have muscle cramping, muscle pain, muscle paralysis, blood in the stool. So it's something that you ate that's causing an irritation. Again, once it gets into the stomach, once it starts being absorbed and processed, that bacteria is there. So it can survive the stomach acid, so it's causing illness. Okay? So, question on food poisoning.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, next up is carbon monoxide poisoning. What is that route of entry?
Inhalation.
Inhalation.
Okay, it's via inhalation. And what's the thing about carbon monoxide?
It binds with the red blood cells. Doesn't let the oxygen.
Okay, that's the actions of carbon monoxide. I want to know what carbon monoxide is.
It's a gas.
Okay, tell me more.
Tasteless, odorless, colorless.
There you go. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas. Where do you find carbon monoxide?
Fires.
In what? I'm sorry?
Fires.
Fires?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what part of fires?
Like the smoke.
There you go. Found in smoke of fires. Okay. Where else?
Gasoline.
Gasoline exhaust? Yes, in a way. In what part?
In the
Got
combustion.
22 people
like
here, and I'm hearing from one.
incomplete combustion.
From what?
The incomplete combustion of the gasoline. So I'm guessing like the fumes.
Okay. Yeah, gasoline engines, they don't burn up all the gasoline. So they're not really real clear burning because it doesn't burn up all the gasoline. So there's still gasoline in the exhaust. But yeah, basically you find carbon monoxide in vehicle exhaust. All right, where else?
Furnaces.
There you go. Furnace exhaust. Anywhere else?
Stoves.
Toast.
Stove.
Okay, stove. Okay. Anywhere else you can think of?
Fireplaces.
Fireplace, but we were talking about smoke earlier. I can't I can't think of too many other places. All right. So it's a colorless, odorless gas. There was a story of somebody that went up to the mountains, and it wasn't here, it was somewhere, I don't know where. I just heard the story. Where they were up in the mountain, it got bad for them to drive, so they pulled off to the side of the road. But they kept the car running to stay warm. The next morning, they were found dead. Anybody know why?
You said it was snowing?
Yes.
Because the snow increased, so it covered up like the exhaust. So it wasn't able to go out.
Exactly. It came back into the passenger compartment, filled it up with carbon monoxide, and they died as a result. Okay. So what does carbon monoxide do inside the body? And somebody started talking about oxygen. So what does carbon monoxide do?
It binds with the red blood cells.
Okay. But isn't oxygen also binding with the red blood cells?
Yeah, but I think the red blood cells like the carbon monoxide better. So it displaces.
It replaces the oxygen in the red blood cells.
Carbon monoxide has a greater affinity to the hemoglobin than oxygen does. And yeah, it displaces the oxygen. So there's oxygen in the bloodstream. It's just not hitching a ride with the red blood cells. So what's happening to the body? It's starving for oxygen. So what happens is, first off, is there oxygen in the body?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. And so what do you think the pulse ox reading is going to be?
below 94.
You guys agree?
It's probably gonna be high.
Why? Because there is blood in the bloodstream. I'm sorry, there is oxygen in the bloodstream. So that's why I say pulse oxes are fallible. Even though the body is not getting enough oxygen, there's still oxygen in the bloodstream. So one of the signs of carbon monoxide poisoning is cherry red skin. The other thing is a headache is typical. Drowsiness. But if the person's already asleep, are they going to experience a headache and drowsiness?
No.
No. So that's a bad thing. But if you're in an enclosed area, getting a headache is an indication that you're getting exposed to carbon monoxide. Ambulances, they should have good weather stripping to prevent the vehicle exhaust from coming into the patient compartment. If not, they've write it up and they need to replace that weather stripping. You should not be able to inhale or breathe in carbon monoxide in the patient compartment of an ambulance. What else? For homes, where should your carbon monoxide detectors be? And why? Come on, firefighters. This is right up your alley. This is in your wheelhouse.
Near the furnace.
No.
By your stove?
Nope. Smoke alarm should be put by your stoves.
On the wall,
Wherever you're sleeping.
On the wall where, Rosie?
5 feet above the floor. Or the ceiling.
Not the ceiling. Smoke detector should be up high. Why should carbon monoxide detectors be down low?
It's heavier carbon dioxide than air. So it's
Carbon monoxide is what to air?
heavier than air.
There you go. Carbon monoxide is heavier than air, so it sinks to the bottom. That's why your carbon monoxide should be down low. Where should you put a carbon monoxide detector? Or where's one place you should put it at?
On the outlets.
Well, yeah, it goes in the outlet.
5 feet above the air. The wall.
Nope. Near your garage. If you have an attached garage, it should go near your garage. But that's because garages are supposed to have cars. Not mine. Still has my junk. All right.
If you don't have a garage loo, what would be another place to put one?
Yeah, near fireplaces. Close to fireplaces, but somewhere, if you have a fireplace somewhere in that room, not necessarily the kitchen, but maybe near the kitchen.
All right.
So how would you treat carbon monoxide poisoning? Give it an hour of the environment, give them a half flow of 2. maybe positive pressure ventilation. This is where demand valves work pretty good with smoke inhalation to force that air down into the lungs. Okay. What else? Anything else you guys can read?
Quick transport.
Okay, rapid transport. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. How many of you saw the movie Captain America: The First Avenger?
Me.
Yeah.
Pretty cool movie.
You what? I'm sorry.
Pretty cool movie.
Okay. All right. Do you remember the scene where he's chasing the Nazi, the Hydra dude, and he
Yeah.
captures him, and then he goes to his mouth and brings down a tooth and bites it down, and mouth starts foaming?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did he die right away? What was that substance that he bit into?
Cyanide?
Cyanide. Why did he die right away?
Because it
Nobody
interferes
knows?
with the oxygen right away
Okay. How so?
at the cellular level.
What was that?
It destroys
It doesn't destroy it.
or it causes hypoxia
Okay.
itself.
How?
Is it kind of like carbon monoxide?
There you go. In that,
It prevents
Ahí llegó llama.
the cells
Uh-huh.
from using the oxygen.
okay. So same thing. It starves the body of oxygen because cyanide again has a greater affinity to hemoglobin than oxygen does, and so what it does is it starves the body. But that action can happen in a matter of seconds, minutes to a couple hours. Now, the bad thing about carbon monoxide, though, didn't we talk about this already? The thing about not carbon monoxide. The thing about cyanide is that you find it in household products. The reason being is, what is your house made out of? Well, you have a lot of synthetic products, right?
Yeah.
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 Do you think that's going to cause an issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so we have to take that into consideration. because the byproduct of burning synthetic material is cyanide. And so you inhale that and you're exposing the patient yourself to cyanide poisoning. And we already talked about what happens in the body with cyanide poisoning. What else can I think of? Mm-mm. All right, I think that's it. Any questions on cyanide?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Where else
Just
can
one
you
thing.
find cyanide besides?
Well, I was just gonna mention, is cyanide, like whenever you smell cyanide, is that what you were mentioning a couple of weeks back, where you kind of smell like a weird smell of like almonds or something like that?
Yeah. So as far as treatment of cyanide poisoning, again, you move them out of the area. High flow too, and really what they need is they need an antidote. El Paso Fire carries it. I don't know of a lot of other agencies that carry it. I don't know if any of the fire departments in the county carry it. But it's called a cyano kit, which basically has 3 different medications, and one is inhaled, which is amyl nitrite. It's a pellet that looks like an ammonia inhalant. You pop it and you put it underneath the patient's nose and let them breathe that in. And there's 2 others that you inject into the patient, and that helps neutralize the cyanide in the body. But that they have to carry it. And again, I don't know a lot of people that do carry it. So, what else? You guys have questions about cyanide?
No, sir.
No.
Okay. All right. Actually, it's a good natural break. All right. So take a 15-minute break. I actually have 9:53. So we'll be back at, let's see. Be back at 10:10. Okay.
All right. Good.
All right. I'll
Sounds
see you.
good.